Hello, my Virgo Sun, Moon, and Risings. Welcome to your May 2022 horoscope. Today I'm going to be covering the major astrological events for the month ahead using tropical astrology and the whole sign system. So you can watch this horoscope if you are a Virgo rising sun or moon. The most accurate horoscope for you overall, generally speaking, will be your rising sign horoscope. Having said that, if you are a Virgo sun, this horoscope will pertain more to your life goals and your career, whereas you Virgo moon people like myself will probably find that this horoscope will resonate more for you with respect to your family, your living circumstances, and your emotional state of well-being. So now let's get into the horoscope. So on the 1st of May, there will be a new moon solar eclipse at 10 degrees in the sign of Taurus. For those of you who are in the northern hemisphere, this eclipse will probably take place on the 30th of April. Nonetheless, eclipse energy will be very potent and you will feel it from anywhere between around now, which is mid-April, through till about the first couple weeks of June. And that is because we actually have an eclipse on the 1st of May and then another one on the 16th of May, which I will get to later. New moon eclipses bring something new into our lives. So you could see this as a new chapter commencing. Having said that, this particular eclipse will be making a sextile to a stellium of planets in the sign of Pisces. So we will have Mars at 11 degrees Pisces in your 7th house. Neptune will be at 24 degrees Pisces, and Jupiter and Venus will be conjunct at 27 degrees in Pisces. Actually, they will be just 1 minute apart, and this is very important because Venus is the ruler of this eclipse. So while this new moon eclipse energy will bring something new into your life, the fact that all of this heavy Piscean energy is present, as well as a sextile to Neptune, this indicates that you will probably have to sacrifice something or clear something out or let go of something in order to welcome this new change into your life. Now, as I mentioned, this eclipse is occurring in your 9th house at 10 degrees, and it will also be conjunct Uranus at 14 degrees. So there is something quite sudden and unexpected about whatever this new chapter is starting in your life, or whatever this eclipse is bringing into your life, I should say. So the 9th house is connected to travel, education, publications and publishing, counseling, coaching, and your world beliefs. So with regard to travel, this can indicate that international travel is going to become a big part of your life over the next few months. Maybe you are looking at securing some kind of visa to travel abroad, or maybe you're looking at purchasing a plane ticket. What's interesting about this is that Venus will be conjunct Jupiter, and Jupiter is the ruler of your 4th house, which represents your home life and your living circumstances. And it also rules over your 7th house of one-on-one relationships. So some of you may be traveling abroad or looking at traveling abroad because you want to relocate overseas, or maybe you will be meeting someone overseas, and maybe some of you will actually meet a romantic partner either while you are traveling abroad, or maybe this person is of a very different cultural background to you. And I'm saying this because Jupiter rules over your 7th house of one-on-one relationships, and it is conjunct Venus, and Venus rules over your 9th house itself. So this indicates that if a romance is going to start, it would be with someone of a different cultural background to you while you're traveling or while they're traveling, or it could be with someone that you attend school with. Now, on the education front, this can see you studying something new. So maybe you're going back or not going back, but maybe you're starting a new course, or you're wanting to attend university or college. And again, with this sacrificial Neptunian energy, perhaps you have to um, put your personal relationship or one of your personal relationships on hold in order to study. Or perhaps this could see you studying law, because we've got the ninth house and the seventh house and Jupiter all being heavily activated. Some of you may become a teacher, or you may enter into some sort of mentor-mentee relationship. Maybe you're going to start tutoring or something of this nature. In any case, this does indicate some sort of new beginning with travel or education, as I've mentioned, but also this could see you engaging the services of a coach of some description, and that is because the ninth house is connected to coaching as well as counseling. And with this sextile to Mars, and with Mars ruling over your eighth house, this is another factor which highlights that you may be doing some kind of uh, work on yourself to advance, whether this is with respect to your relationships. You could be receiving marriage counseling or relationship counseling, or maybe you are seeing a counselor with regard to education, knowing what direction you want to go in next. On a different level, though, this can see you going down the route of seeking out getting your work published. And I'm saying that because the ninth house is connected to publishing and publications, and Mars, which is sextiling the new moon, rules over your third house, which represents communications. Now, your career is going to, or your work, I should say, will likely be impacted by this new moon eclipse, or perhaps even your health. So I'm saying this because the new moon eclipse will be conjunct Uranus, and Uranus rules over your sixth house. So this represents your health, your work, as well as your daily habits. So this eclipse can impact you in all of those ways. Maybe you're pursuing a different form of education because you want to change the industry or the work that you do. Maybe you are receiving counseling or coaching with respect to health concerns that you have, or you could just be engaging the services of a personal trainer or someone to help you in a physical way. And also, some of you may be wanting to receive advice on how to become self employed or start your own business. Lastly, well, actually, no, two more things with this eclipse. You may um, experience a pretty sudden shift in your religious beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, your world beliefs, and your political beliefs, or. So it could be all of the above. And in some way, shape, or form, this shift in your beliefs appears to be quite sudden or quite swift or quite unexpected, thanks to this conjunction to Uranus. So maybe people in your life are like, wow, I didn't think that you would hold these particular ideological or spiritual or political beliefs. Or maybe you're sort of like shocking yourself that, all of a sudden, you're spiritual or you're religious, and, this can actually take you by surprise. So, lastly, with this eclipse, this is an indicator for legal proceedings being initiated, and that is because the ninth house is connected to the law. And like I said, it is sextiling all these planets in Pisces in your seventh house. The seventh house is the other house, which is very much connected to the law and legal proceedings, as is the sixth house. But the seventh house represents lawyers, and because Venus is conjunct Jupiter, and Jupiter also represents the law and lawyers, there may be something new which is coming through with legal proceedings, because so many planets are involved with this eclipse. There's almost no point in narrowing it down, but if I had to just throw a few things out there, this could be about your mutual resources with another person, your finances. This could be to do with university or education. Maybe this is some sort of discrimination claim. or this could be to do with property or a business partner or an ex-spouse or significant other. So moving on to the next transit, on the 10th of May, Mercury will station retrograde at 4 degrees in the sign of Gemini in your 10th house. Now, as most of you Virgos know, Mercury retrogrades always do a little bit of a number on us. And this retrograde period is no exception. And I'm saying that because when Mercury is retrograde in either Gemini or Virgo, this is always the most intense Mercury retrograde energy that we experience. And that is because, Mercury is at home in those two signs. So because this is occurring in your 10th house, this can indicate that around this period of time, you'll be rethinking and reevaluating your career and your path in life. In terms of the time frame, from the 10th of May, Mercury will be retrograde in Gemini. Then around the 22nd or the 23rd of May, depending where you live in the world, Mercury will retrograde back into the sign of Taurus, and it will station direct at 26 degrees Taurus on the 3rd or 4th of June, again, depending where you live in the world. So with Mercury retrograde in your 10th house, this can see you rethinking and reevaluating your career, the path that you're on in life, what you want to be doing going forwards with your career or your vocation. Even if this means you want to take a sabbatical or resign or retire altogether, this is still being indicated by this Mercury retrograde period. So let's have a look at the work front, and then I'll run through some other ways that Mercury retrograde can impact your personal status and how you identify. So on the work front, this can see your employment status changing in all the different ways, whether this is employed, unemployed. This could see you coming back out of retirement. This can see you re-entering the workforce after a period of being unemployed. Even if you own your own business, same deal. If you stopped work, just as an example, to look after children, or for one reason or another, this can see you coming back out of the woodwork to be gainfully employed once more. Your status with work can change in terms of you could go from being full-time to part-time, or part-time to casual, or casual to full-time. The number of days that you work could change. The number of hours that you work could change. Your working hours themselves and your duties and responsibilities could change. Mercury retrogrades tend to bring something that has already been discussed or experienced back from the past, or this can see us acting on decisions that we have been thinking about for a really, really long time. So just as an example, I launched my business during a Mercury retrograde period. No regrets. But basically, I had planned it to happen way earlier than it did, months. And then I was like, okay, one more month, one more month, one more month. And then when it got to Mercury retrograde, I was like, well, this has been delayed so many times. I just don't care. And, technically this is still in Mercury retrograde period, or Mercury retrograde territory. So it can still work on that level. Now, this can see work contracts being delayed, but also your working conditions can be renegotiated because we're taking the re out of retrograde. On a different level, miscommunications with your boss can occur. So can miscommunications with authority figures, any kind of government body that you were dealing with, or any kind of sort of, old school archaic institution that you're dealing with as well. Now, I would be careful about what you're saying in the public eye, because your 10th house is the most visible house in your birth chart. So things that you've said in the past could come back to bite you. Doesn't have to be that way. Another way that this could play out is that something that you say in a public setting could be misconstrued during this period of time. Now, lastly, with this particular Mercury retrograde transit occurring in your 10th house, because Mercury rules over your first house, which is how you identify, and it's in your 10th house, which is your reputation and your status, how you identify or how you present yourself could be changing around this period of time. Now, this could be to do with your identity, your sexual identity, your sexual preferences, so how you identify. Just as an example, let's just say that you have been straight for a long time, and then you go gay for a period. Well, you identify as gay, I should say, for a period of time. This could be weeks, months, or years. You may, during this Mercury retrograde period, be like, you know what, I'm back to being straight. Whatever it is, it's perfectly okay. But it shows some kind of reversal taking place with respect to how you identify. It doesn't just need to be about your sexual preferences, though. This could be anything. A I'm a left-wing person, or I'm a right-wing person. These are my beliefs. This is how I identify. I'm a vegetarian. Any I am statement is seen from the midheaven. So that is something to note. And just one more thing with that, your public record could be reversed. So let's just say that you were, I'm just trying to think of a random example off the top of my head. Okay, the record can be set straight. So let's just say that certain rumors went around about you in the workplace. Doesn't need to be the workplace though, and everyone believed these rumors. During a Mercury retrograde period, the record can be set straight where information comes to light and people were like, oh, so that wasn't her fault after all, or, we had the wrong end of the stick. So the truth can come out during this time, and this can be really beneficial to people. Now, on the 22nd/23rd of May, Mercury will retrograde from Gemini back into the sign of Taurus um, in your ninth house. So, again, the ninth house is very activated for you for this month. So, we're looking at education, travel, and your belief systems. On the education front, this can see you having a second shot at a scholarship because Mercury rules over the 10th house, which would indicate, some assistance coming through from the government, and it's in the sign of Taurus, which is the sign of money. This could see you deferring or coming out of a sabbatical period. Maybe you had deferred initially and now you're re-enrolling. This can see you changing your course. This could see you who are teachers, those of you who are teachers, putting teaching or tutoring on hold or returning to your position as a teacher. And also, this could see you republishing a book or some kind of communications piece, or perhaps you're changing your pen name. Now, on a different level, uh, with respect to travel, some of you may be um, experiencing delays with paperwork or documentations for things like visas. Certainly, all kinds of international travel plans can be butchered, really. So, there could be delays with your flights, there could be issues with any kind of travel plans that you have made. Anything that involves planes, okay, so air travel is just subject to Mercury retrograde isms, and also long-awaited documents which are connected to travel, education, and legal paperwork can be received. Um, but just going back to travel, your international itinerary could change, or you may have to postpone a trip in its entirety. Now, lastly, with this transit, you could do a total 180 with regard to your political, spiritual, religious, and ideological beliefs. So, um, I know I keep using this random example, but you could go from being left wing to right wing, or vice versa. You could go from being um, changing religions. So maybe you're a devout Christian and now you're becoming a Buddhist, um, or Muslim. So really your beliefs and how you identify, because Mercury is the planet that rules you and it rules your 10th house, are subject to some very big changes. Now, lastly, um, this could see you reconnecting with your father. So maybe you're redefining that relationship, whether this is your father or a father figure in your life. Doesn't necessarily need to be your biological father. If you have been estranged from a father figure, this can see you reestablishing that relationship. Now, also on the 10th of May, so on the same day that Mercury stations retrograde in Gemini, Jupiter will enter the sign of Aries for the first time in about 12 years. So this is pretty exciting. Jupiter does well in the 8th house because Jupiter is a planet of wealth and money and abundance. And the 8th house represents your mutual resources. So I'm going to run through a few different ways that this can play out for you. But before I do that, just know that the dates that Jupiter will be in the sign of Aries will be from the 10th of May until the end of October in 2022. Then it will go back into Pisces for a little bit. On the 20th of December, Jupiter will re enter the sign of Aries and it will be there for another 7-ish months until July 2023. Now, the way that Jupiter works, so to speak, is that it may not bring you blessings immediately from the get-go. It could even be after Jupiter has left your 8th house for good that it bestows those blessings. Nonetheless, the ways that it can impact you is that for those of you who have a significant other or even a business partner, it doesn't need to be a romantic partner, this person in your life may receive an increase in their pay or a bonus or a lump sum of money. And then this is impacting you in a positive way because Jupiter expands whatever it touches. On a different level, you yourself may receive some kind of inheritance money or a payout. Now, Jupiter rules over your 4th house, which represents your family life, your property as well. And it also rules over your emotional state of well-being. Jupiter rules over your 7th house, as I mentioned, which represents these one-on-one relationships. So for you, on one hand, you may actually receive property as a part of your inheritance, or perhaps it is transferred into your name. Now, on a different level, you could receive money from your family, or a former partner could be giving you money. So maybe they are like, here's alimony money or child support money. You could actually receive money from a court case or damages, and that is because Jupiter is the planet of law and it rules over your 7th house. And the 7th house is one of the houses in astrology which is connected to legal proceedings. So you could receive a payout in that way. Now, on a different level, this could see some of you becoming pregnant, and that is because Jupiter is a planet which is very much connected to pregnancies, and the 8th house is also the house of pregnancy, or conception, I should say, and it rules over the 4th house, which is also connected to starting a family. Now, for this to actually occur, so for you to fall pregnant, what I would want to see in your chart would be the 5th house being activated as well in some way, shape, or form. So for those of you who are more advanced, we could look at the ruler of your 5th house, whether this is, Placidus or whole sign, being together with Jupiter in your 8th house. There are obviously other ways as well, but I just thought I would point that out. And this would be more likely for Virgo moon individuals and Virgo risings rather than Virgo sun individuals. For you Virgo suns who are interested in pregnancy and fertility, I would advise you to go and watch your horoscope for your rising sign and your moon sign to get information on that. Now, with Jupiter in the 8th house, this can bring blessings and miracles and abundance. And that is because Jupiter is the greater benefic in astrology. So it can bring blessings, it can bring good news. And the eighth house is connected to sudden reversals. So this can see there being a sudden reversal of a health issue that you've been dealing with, whether this is physical or whether this is psychological. The eighth house is very much connected to healing on all levels, whether this is psychological, metaphysical, physical, energetic, and so on and so forth. So this would be an excellent time for you to study your astrological birth chart in greater detail, or perhaps take up something like tarot reading or numerology or Reiki or any kind of esoteric practice. Jupiter represents knowledge and information and wisdom, and the eighth house is, one of the occult houses. So during this period of time, which again is, 5 months between now and the end of October, and then from December to July 2023, you can become a profound astrologer or tarot reader or someone who is very, very connected to reading energies or some kind of esoteric practice. Now, just moving along to the 16th of May, where we'll look at the total lunar eclipse in Scorpio, then we'll finish up with looking at Mars in Aries. So on the 16th of May, we will have this total lunar eclipse occurring in the sign of Scorpio at 25 degrees in your third house. So lunar eclipses are kind of like full moons but on steroids. Now we can have partial lunar eclipses, otherwise known as full moon eclipses, or we can have total lunar eclipses. So as you might imagine, total lunar eclipses are a lot more potent and impactful than partial lunar eclipses. And essentially this indicates the ending of a chapter in your life or some kind of cycle that is coming to a close. So, in terms of the aspects that are occurring alongside this eclipse, the bad news, always bad news first for Virgo. Well, Virgo moon, as I am, I like to deliver bad news first. This eclipse will be making a square to Saturn in Aquarius in your sixth house. Good news, good news. And this trumps the bad news, by the way, is that the total lunar eclipse will be making a trine to Mars and Neptune in the sign of Pisces in your seventh house. And Mars is the ruler of the eclipse because it rules over the sign of Scorpio. So essentially, the third house represents siblings, relatives, education, courses, as in short courses. It also represents co-workers, friends, and business connections, as well as sales and marketing. It represents your perspective on things and how you think, because it's like your conscious mind. And also the third house can represent tests and exams and so on and so forth. So bearing all of that in mind, some of you may be completing a communications piece or a writing piece or a project, or you may be finishing up some kind of course. And with the trine to Mars in Pisces and Neptune in Pisces in your seventh house, this can indicate that you receive assistance from another person, or you may receive, I don't want to say permission, but kind of like the green light or the go ahead to walk away from this. So maybe you're quitting this course, maybe you're saying, I don't want to do this apprenticeship anymore. I don't want to sit this exam or this test or whatever. And then the square to Saturn in your sixth house is like, maybe you're losing money with doing this. Maybe your boss or your employer is quite disappointed in this decision of yours. On a different level, this can see you ending a relationship with another person. And again, that could be a friend or a coworker, or a business connection, or maybe even one of your siblings. And you're like, I just can't be in contact with you. And then the trine to Mars and Neptune in your seventh house makes it easy for you to let go, where you can do this guiltlessly and you know that this is what needs to be done. But then the square to Saturn in your sixth house is like, you could receive criticism from someone in your life for this decision, even though it is in your best interests. And I'm saying that because Saturn represents authority figures, and the sixth house represents conflicts, so conflictual energy, and Saturn can represent just receiving criticism anyway. So it's kind of like your decision with regarding a personal relationship or a project or a writing piece receives some sort of dissent or criticism, but somehow, you still receive support from maybe a significant other or a friend or someone who helps you do this. So, if I could sum up the energy of the total lunar eclipse in Scorpio, I would say whatever happens will be in your best interests. You will receive some support. There will be some sort of criticism or pushback, but deep down that this is what you need to do. So, whatever action you're taking, this is the right action, even though it might be a difficult thing to do. So, as far as eclipse energy is concerned, you may be feeling highly emotional, fatigued, tired, unmotivated. This could be like right now. This could have started a couple weeks ago. And I'm saying this because we've got an eclipse on the 1st of May. We've got an eclipse on the 16th of May. So I sort of see the eclipse energy being at play, plus or minus 4 weeks from the eclipse. So I know that my sleep personally is just like totally shot. And energy levels are, but anyway, this should return to, let's say, normal from about mid-June, because then we'll be out of the post-retrograde, um, post Mercury retrograde shadow period. I always struggle stringing that sentence together. Okay, so lastly for the month, on the 24th/25th of May, we will see Mars enter the sign of Aries in your 8th house. Now, what's kind of crazy about this period of time is that Jupiter will be in Aries, Mars will be in Aries, Chiron is still in Aries, Venus will be in Aries from the 3rd of May until the 28th of May, and the moon will be in Aries as well. So having these 4 planets plus Chiron all in Aries will be from about the 24th/25th of May till the 28th of May. So that means your 8th house is activated to the hilt. So with Mars here and with, these sensitive planets like Moon and Venus and Jupiter, it's kind of like there may be some sort of sensitive topic which crops up, which requires you to be very delicate in your dealings with this sensitive issue. Um, I would say to be careful about what you're telling other people during this time, because it kind of carries the energy of your words can be used against you down the track. And again, this is like a 3 or 4 day period, so nothing to freak out about. But just generally speaking, with Mars in Aries in your 8th house for about 7 or 8 weeks, this can see you initiating either separating your mutual resources from another person, or this could see you initiating the combining of your resources with another person. And it's paradoxical because Mars represents, severing ties, but then Jupiter and Venus are here, and Jupiter will be here till well and truly after Mars has left Aries. So that's where there's this paradoxical push and pull energy. Now, this can see you being extremely proactive about healing. So maybe you were seeking out information on a procedure or a surgery, or maybe you were seeking out um, basically signing up for psychology sessions or to see a psychiatrist, or maybe you're doing your own deep research into some kind of documentary that you want to produce, which is on sensitive topics or secretive topics. And I'm saying this because the 8th house is connected to deep research. Mars rules the 8th house, but it also rules the 3rd house. So this can see you gathering information and intel on a sensitive matter or a secret matter which you want to know more about. Now, uh, lastly, with Mars in your 8th house, this can see you fighting for more money, fighting for more resources, and also piercing the veil. So, what I mean by this is you can have a super, like, huge spiritual awakening or sudden downloads of information. You may feel like you're finally tapped into psychic information, or that you just have some sort of enormous emotional and psychological as well as spiritual breakthrough. And so, Virgo, that's all I have for you for May 2022. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content on this channel, please hit the subscribe button. If you want to book a private one-on-one reading with me, you can do so via the link in the description box below. Wishing you all the best for May 2022, and I will see you guys in June.